The ultimate high, the ultimate merchandise. Want to know why the world is the way it is? Why people are the way they are? William Burroughs identified what the central problem of the world is: addiction. The people who rule the world are those who control the addiction business. Are you addicted to your smartphone? Would your life fall apart without it? Then you are wholly under the power of those who run the smartphone business. They will become and have become multi-billionaires, while you are just one of the mindless, addicted masses, unable to function without this drug they have given you, designed to get you to use it as much as possible and be absolutely enthralled to it. This is all by design. They planned it like this, just as cigarette producers planned to get everyone addicted to cigarettes. Smartphones weren't around when Burroughs was alive. The drug he was interested in was junk, heroin. A junkie's whole life revolves around junk. They have no other life. Today, most people's lives revolve around the gadget in their pocket, and they cannot conceive of life without it. They feel absolutely lost without it. The smartphone is cyber junk. J.G. Ballard wrote, "Drugs are the ultimate merchandise," Burroughs has written, and he sees addiction as part of the global conspiracy by the presiding powers of our world. The media conglomerates, the vast political and commercial bureaucracies, and a profit-driven medical science, which are determined to reduce us to the total dependency of addicts. That's exactly it. That's their precise agenda. The elites must reduce you to something that cannot fight back, something that cannot resist. They do so via what they get you addicted to. The addict is always a puppet, a slave. Once you are addicted, you are theirs. The junkie will do anything for his pusher. The pusher is his god, because only the pusher can satisfy his need. And his need is desperate and permanent. Ballard wrote, "Burroughs chooses to explode this conspiracy by inviting us all to lunch, and his menu is a novel that I believe to be the most important and original work of fiction by an American writer since the Second World War. Naked Lunch is both the addict's fix, the rush of pure sensation through the brain, and also the stark and unsentimental truth about ourselves, our self-delusions and deceits, served with a dressing of the spiciest humor. Here you will find a host of hilarious characters, led by the egregious Dr. Benway, the most corrupt and charming physician in 20th century literature. After the anemic fare of most contemporary fiction, sit back and gorge yourself on this feast of a novel. The thing about heroin addiction is that it can kill you, but the elites don't want their junkie addicts to die. They want to fleece, manipulate, and control them for as long as possible. Death is bad business. It cuts off the money supply. Smartphones won't kill you, but you will probably be clutching one on your deathbed. It will mean more to you than any human being, and you certainly spent more time with it than with any other human being. Even the love of your life never got as much time with you. We know what the real love of your life is, your supreme addiction, whatever gives you the greatest high on the most continuous basis. Burroughs wrote, "Deposition testimony concerning a sickness. I awoke from the sickness at the age of 45, calm and sane, and in reasonably good health except for a weakened liver and the look of borrowed flesh common to all who survive the sickness. All smartphone users have a certain look. They all have that borrowed flesh. The sickness has seeped into every pore." Burroughs wrote, "Most survivors do not remember the delirium in detail. I apparently took detailed notes on sickness and delirium. I have no precise memory of writing the notes, which have now been published under the title Naked Lunch. The title was suggested by Jack Kerouac. I did not understand what the title meant until my recent recovery. The title means exactly what the words say. Naked Lunch, a frozen moment when everyone sees what is on the end of every fork. Are you ready for your naked lunch? Are you ready to see what your life really is, minus all the bullshit and self-propaganda? Are you ready to recover from the sickness? In your dreams, the sickness is with you unto death." Burroughs wrote, "The sickness is drug addiction, and I was an addict for 15 years. I have smoked junk, eaten it, sniffed it, injected it in vein, skin, muscle, inserted it in rectal suppositories. The needle is not important, whether you sniff it, smoke it, eat it, or shove it up your ass. The result is the same: addiction. Most people probably want to shove their smartphone up their ass to get even closer to it. They want it to become part of them. Burroughs wrote, "I have seen the exact manner in which the junk virus operates through 15 years of addiction. The pyramid of junk, one level eating the level below. It is no accident that junk higher-ups are always fat and the addict in the street is always thin. Right up to the top or tops, since there are many junk pyramids feeding on peoples of the world and all built on basic principles of monopoly. Look around. Which junk pyramids are you in? To what are you addicted? Many things. Could you cope with life without your addictions? What are the basic principles of monopoly?" Burroughs wrote, "Never give anything away for nothing. Never give more than you have to give. Always catch the buyer hungry and always make him wait. Always take everything back if you possibly can. The elites make you pay for everything. That's why they are super rich. They always keep you waiting for their next amazing upgrade, the one that will finally transform your life. If they could, they would take back everything they sold you and sell it to someone else. They would love to sell one thing over and over again to everyone on Earth. Maximum profit from minimum outlay." Burroughs wrote, "The pusher always gets it all back." The super rich elites spend a hell of a lot of money, but they get it all back. They are the perfect pushers. Burroughs wrote, "The addict needs more and more junk to maintain a human form. Buy off the monkey. Most people seem to be taking on the form of their smartphone. They are losing human form. They can't buy off the monkey. The man's boot is on their neck." Burroughs wrote, "Junk is the mold of monopoly and possession. The addict stands by while his junk legs carry him straight in on the junk beam to relapse. Are you stuck in the junk beam, the ultimate tractor beam? It will draw you all the way in and chew you up until there is nothing left." Burroughs wrote, "Junk is quantitative and accurately measurable. The more junk you use, the less you have, and the more you have, the more you use. There you have it. The more junk you have, the more junk you use. Your smartphone is full of junk, and eventually you can barely take your hand off your smartphone. The more you use your smartphone, the less battery you have to power it. So you are always engaged in charging your battery to get your hit. People's whole lives now revolve around battery chargers for smartphones, the sine qua non for their addiction. The smartphone is the universal addiction, the gateway to every addiction." Burroughs wrote, "There are no opium cults. Opium is profane and quantitative like money. I have heard that there was once a beneficent, non-habit-forming junk in India. It was called Soma and is pictured as a beautiful blue tide. If Soma ever existed, the pusher was there to bottle it and monopolize it and sell it, and it turned into plain old-time junk. But money is a cult. Everyone worships at the altar of money and devotes themselves to the gods of this religion, the super-rich elites. The addicts worship the pushers. The pushers bottle everything and sell it to everyone." Burroughs wrote, "Junk is the ideal product, the ultimate merchandise. No sales talk necessary. The client will crawl through a sewer and beg to buy. Who are the super rich? They are those who found a way to sell you something that you begged to buy. That's the ultimate merchandise. It sells itself. Once it exists, people must have it. And if they must have it, they are addicted to it. That means they are absolutely under the control of the supplier, the pusher." Burroughs wrote, "The junk merchant does not sell his product to the consumer. He sells the consumer to his product. That right there is the true horror. The pusher doesn't sell his drug to the addict. He sells the addict to his addiction. And that's 100% guaranteed to make him rich. The addict will spend every cent he has to feed his addiction. Predatory capitalism is built on this. Those at the top of the predatory capitalist pyramid are the apex predators, the top pushers. They are the worst and most dangerous people in the world. They are the men who sold the world and bought it back for nothing. They will eventually have all the money in the world. They are the last bling kings, Burroughs wrote. He does not improve and simplify his merchandise. He degrades and simplifies the client. Predatory capitalism revolves around degrading and simplifying humanity so that every human is a desperate node of addiction. Burroughs wrote he pays his staff in junk. Isn't that chilling? You pay people in what they are addicted to, which means you're not paying them. You're making them even more addicted. Burroughs wrote, junk yields a basic formula of evil virus, the algebra of need. The face of evil is always the face of total need. The masses need their bread and circuses. They will do anything for those that provide them. Humanity would be entirely different if everyone could move beyond bread and circuses. But they can't. They're addicted. That make them evil. They support the evil pushers. Their addiction demands it. Burroughs wrote, a dope fiend is a man in total need of dope. A bread and circuses fiend is a man in total need of bread and circuses. Most people are in that boat. That's how most people live their lives, Burroughs wrote. Beyond a certain frequency, need knows absolutely no limit or control. What is the frequency of total need? The elites know how to tune into it and make the masses oscillate with it. Everyone dances to their tune. He who dances must pay the piper. Burroughs wrote, in the words of total need, wouldn't you? Yes, you would. You would lie, cheat, inform on your friends, steal, do anything to satisfy total need, because you would be in a state of total sickness, total possession, and not in a position to act in any other way. This is the state the elites have to get you into. Then they have absolute control over you. You know how it goes. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. The people in power in the world are the face of absolute corruption. Burroughs wrote, dope fiends are sick people who cannot act other than they do. A rabid dog cannot choose but bite. The mission of the elites is to make sure that you cannot be anything other than sick. They can control only sick people. The healthy are of no use to them. The healthy are always a threat. Burroughs wrote, assuming a self-righteous position is nothing to the purpose unless your purpose be to keep the junk virus in operation. Self-righteousness has never helped anyone. It doesn't change a thing. It can't. It's just a pose, a posture, a performance. Burroughs wrote, and junk is a big industry. I recall talking to an American who worked for the Aftosa Commission in Mexico, $600 a month plus expense account. How long will the epidemic last? I inquired. As long as we can keep it going. And yes, maybe. The Aftosa will break out in South America, he said dreamily. The elites want the epidemic to last forever and infect everything. It's the source of all their power. Burroughs wrote, if you wish to alter or annihilate a pyramid of numbers in a serial relation, you alter or remove the bottom number. If we wish to annihilate the junk pyramid, we must start with the bottom of the pyramid, the addict in the street, and stop tilting quixotically for the higher-ups, so-called, all of whom are immediately replaceable. If the people changed, the elites could have no power over them. The whole game of the elites is to ensure that the people never change. From birth to death, they must be bread and circuses people. Burroughs wrote, the addict in the street who must have junk to live is the one irreplaceable factor in the junk equation. When there are no more addicts to buy junk, there will be no junk traffic. When the masses stop serving the elites, there will be no more elites. That's the conclusion of Hegel's master-slave dialectic. Burroughs wrote, as long as junk need exists, someone will service it. As long as the people are pathetic, there will be elites to manipulate and exploit them. When the people cease to be pathetic, the elites automatically end. They no longer have any victims. Burroughs wrote, addicts can be cured or quarantined. That is, allowed a morphine ration under minimal supervision like typhoid carriers. When this is done, the junk pyramids of the world will collapse. Cure the addicts, quarantine the addicts. Get them out of the way, remove them from the equation. Burroughs wrote, in another generation, when the quarantined addicts die off and painkillers operating on a non-junk principle are discovered, the junk virus will be like smallpox, a closed chapter, a medical curiosity. One day, the bread and circuses obsession of the masses will be a closed chapter. Humanity will have moved on, Burroughs wrote. The vaccine that can relegate the junk virus to a landlocked past is in existence. What vaccine do we need to inoculate us against bread and circuses, and thus subordination to the elites? Burroughs wrote, for many years, the only use for apomorphine, which has no narcotic or pain-killing properties, was an emetic to induce vomiting in cases of poisoning. It acts directly on the vomiting center in the back brain. That's what we need, an emetic response to bread and circuses. We need humanity's vomit center to be triggered. Throw up over the elite. Burroughs wrote, I found this vaccine at the end of the junk line. I lived in one room in the native quarter of Tangier. I had not taken a bath in a year, nor changed my clothes or removed them, except to stick a needle every hour in the fibrous gray wooden flesh of terminal addiction. Bread and circuses is a terminal addiction. People will be entertained to death. Burroughs wrote, I never cleaned or dusted the room. Empty ampule boxes and garbage piled up to the ceiling. Light and water had been long since turned off for non-payment. I did absolutely nothing. I could look at the end of my shoe for 8 hours. I was only roused to action when the hourglass of junk ran out. Today, the masses can stare at their smartphones 24/7. Burroughs wrote, if a friend came to visit, and they rarely did, since who or what was left to visit, I sat there not caring that he had entered my field of vision, a gray screen always blanker and fainter, and not caring when he walked out of it. If he had died on the spot, I would have sat there looking at my shoe, waiting to go through his pockets. Sounds just like a typical smartphone person. They wouldn't care if their mother dropped dead in front of them. Burroughs wrote, wouldn't you? Because I never had enough junk. No one ever does. 30 grains of morphine a day, and it still was not enough. And long waits in front of a drugstore. The smartphone gang are always waiting for the next hit, the next high. Oh, how they love their variable rewards, Burroughs wrote. Delay is a rule in the junk business. The man is never on time. This is no accident. There are no accidents in the junk world. The addict is taught again and again exactly what will happen if he does not score for his junk ration. Get up that money or else. 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 That's the mantra of the elite, Burroughs wrote. And suddenly my habit began to jump and jump. 40, 60 grains a day, and it still was not enough, and I could not pay. I stood there with my last check in my hand and realized that it was my last check. I took the next plane for London. They always take your last check, your last cent, Burroughs wrote. I agreed to undergo treatment and entered a nursing home. For the first 24 hours, I was literally insane and paranoid, as many addicts are in severe withdrawal. This delirium was dispersed by 24 hours of intensive apomorphine treatment. The doctor showed me the chart. I had received minute amounts of morphine that could not possibly account for my lack of the more severe withdrawal symptoms, such as leg and stomach cramps, fever, and my own special symptom, the cold burn, like a vast hives covering the body and rubbed with menthol. Every addict has his own special symptom that cracks all control. There was a missing factor in the withdrawal equation. That factor could only be apomorphine. To cure the world of bread and circuses, we need a vaccine, something like apomorphine that allows the addicts to come off their addiction without severe withdrawal symptoms. Burroughs wrote, the smallpox vaccine was opposed by a vociferous lunatic group of anti-vaccinationists. No doubt a scream of protest will go up from interested or unbalanced individuals as the junk virus is shot out from under them. Can you imagine how much the children, actually adults, would rage if their toys were taken away from them, their smart phones and games consoles, and all the rest of the things that cut them off from reality? Burroughs wrote, "Junk is big business. There are always cranks and operators. They must not be allowed to interfere with the essential work of inoculation treatment and quarantine." The junk virus is public health problem number one of the world today. Bread and circuses is the number one problem. The elites rule as long as they can supply bread and circuses, and as long as the people crave bread and circuses. When they don't, the elites are finished. Burroughs wrote, "Since Naked Lunch treats this health problem, it is necessarily brutal, obscene, and disgusting. Sickness has often repulsive details, not for weak stomachs. It's time for everyone to be given the naked lunch. Force-fed. You cannot be allowed to look away." Burroughs wrote, "As always, the lunch is naked. If civilized countries want to return to druid hanging rites in the sacred grove, or to drink blood with the Aztecs and feed their gods with blood of human sacrifice, let them see what they actually eat and drink. Let them see what is on the end of that long newspaper spoon. People must be made to see how bread and circuses have destroyed their lives and made them the helpless puppets of the elites that control the bread and circuses." Burroughs wrote, "I have almost completed a sequel to Naked Lunch, a mathematical extension of the algebra of need beyond the junk virus. Because there are many forms of addiction, I think that they all obey basic laws. In the words of Heisenberg, this may not be the best of all possible universes, but it may well prove to be one of the simplest. If man can see, this is the simplest universe, and that makes it the best universe. But you can only see it's the best if you can see its true, overall, complete nature." Burroughs wrote, "I don't want to hear any more tired old junk talk and junk con. The same thing said a million times and more, and there is no point in saying anything because nothing ever happens in the junk world. And nothing ever happens in the junk world of bread and circuses. The same entertainment is endlessly recycled." Burroughs wrote, "Only excuse for this tired death route is the kick, when the junk circuit is cut off for the non-payment and the junk skin dies of junk lack and overdose of time, and the old skin has forgotten the skin game, simplifying a way under the junk cover the way skins will. Ding. A condition of total exposure is precipitated when the kicking addict cannot choose but see, smell, and listen. Watch out for the cars. That's right, watch out. Watch out for that kick. Kick the elites," Burroughs wrote. "It is clear that junk is around the world. Push an opium pellet with your nose root, strictly for scarabs. Stumble bum junk heap, and as such report to disposal. Tired of seeing it around. Yeah, we all are. Where are those scarabs? Push the dung round and round the mulberry bush," Burroughs wrote. "Junkies always beef about the cold, as they call it, turning up their black coat collars and clutching their withered necks. Pure junk con. A junkie does not want to be warm. He wants to be cool, cooler, cold. But he wants the cold, like he wants his junk, not outside, where it does him no good but inside, so he can sit around with a spine like a frozen hydraulic jack. His metabolism approaching absolute zero. Most people are zombies with a metabolism approaching absolute zero. No activity at any point. They are the frozen ones, the meaningless ones," Burroughs wrote. "Terminal addicts often go 2 months without a bowel move, and the intestines make with sit-down adhesions. Wouldn't you? Requiring the intervention of an apple corer or its surgical equivalent. Such is life in the old ice house. Why move around and waste time? Room for one more inside, sir. Indeed. 2 months without a bowel movement. Dig it out. Operate. Remove that shit. Or choke on it," Burroughs wrote. "Some entities are on thermodynamic kicks. They invented thermodynamics. Wouldn't you? Yes, I think I would, Burroughs wrote. And some of us are on different kicks. And that's a thing out in the open the way I like to see what I eat. And vice versa, mutatis mutandis, as the case may be. Bill's naked lunchroom. Oh, step right up. Good for young and old, man and bestial. Nothing like a little snake oil to grease the wheels and get a show on the track, Jack. Hey man, you gotta dig how good a writer Burroughs was. A real aptitude with words, and their flow and shape and sound. Hunt. Did you see what I did there? Burroughs wrote. Which side are you on? Frozen hydraulic? Or you want to take a look around with Honest Bill? Oh, I hear muttering about a personal razor and some Bush League short con artist who is known to have invented the bill. Wouldn't you? Yes, yes, yes. You know it. Burroughs wrote, the razor belonged to a man named Occam, and he was not a scar collector. He was not. He shaved logic. The best shave ever, Burroughs wrote Ludwig Wittgenstein Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus. If approposition is not necessary, it is meaningless and approaching meaning zero. And what is more unnecessary than junk if you don't need it? Answer, junkies, if you are not on junk. Was Wittgenstein on junk? Seems like it at times. The mystic meg of philosophy. Burroughs wrote, I tell you boys, I've heard some tired conversation, but no other occupation group can approximate that old thermodynamic junk slowdown. Now your heroin addict does not say hardly anything, and that I can stand. But your opium smoker is more active since he still has a tent and a lamp, and maybe 7, 9, 10 lying up in there like hibernating reptiles keep the temperature up to talking level. How low the other junkies are, whereas we have this tent and this lamp and this tent and this lamp and this tent and nice and warm in here, nice and warm, nice and in here and nice and outside it's cold. It's cold outside where the dross eaters and the needle boys won't last 2 years, not 6 months, hardly won't last. Stumble bum around and there is no class in them. Oh, but we sit here and never increase the dose. Never. Never increase the dose, never accept. Tonight is a special occasion with all the dross eaters and needle boys out there in the cold. Room for one more inside, sir. There's always room for more. Are you going in? Will you ever come out?